Hello and welcome. I am Dr. Lara May, a clinical pharmacist specializing in functional medicine, as well as a certified yoga teacher and Reiki master. I run a truly integrative health coaching practice encompassing functional medicine lab testing, yoga and meditation, and a sprinkling of Reiki energy medicine. Join me here on Light Body Radio to break through your health plateau and come into alignment with your natural vitality. Hello and welcome to Light Body Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Lara May, and today I have with me Amy Jovita Murray. She is a fertility coach, educator, holistic reproductive health practitioner, wife, bilingual, English and German, awesome, mama of 2 little girls, ages 5 and 2, a recovering coffee-holic, and dark chocolate lover. In her practice, Amy helps women to get pregnant naturally by teaching them to chart their menstrual cycle and using the menstrual cycle chart as a tool to identify any challenges or underlying issues. Through this process, Amy helps to empower her clients to make informed decisions about their reproductive health and fertility. Since graduating from, is it Justisse? Justisse College International in 2020. Amy has worked with dozens of clients worldwide, helping them not only to get that positive pregnancy test, but having the healthiest pregnancy possible without fertility treatments. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Lara.
So I always like to start by having my guests tell their story, how they came to be interested in what they're doing and passionate and really paving the way in their respective fields. So how did that happen for you?
Oh, goodness. Okay, so I'll try to keep this brief. It really started. So I started my period at age 12, and I was put on the pill at age 13 to fix, I'm doing air quotes for all the listeners. I got put on the pill to fix my acne. And so I was on the pill for almost 10 years. I think it was like 9 years. And I was off and on the pill for like almost the entirety of that time, with like a few breaks like here and there for a few months. And so while I was initially put on the pill to fix my acne, by the time I was in my early 20s, I started having problems again with cystic acne despite the pill. And I just had this feeling. There were like a few things combined. So one was I'm noticing acne when I'm taking the active pills, and the acne goes away during the week pill break. And the second thing was I knew I wanted to have children way down the road. Like at that point when I was like having this hunch, it was like 10 years down the road, I want to have children. And I just had this feeling I want to let my body cycle naturally for a while before having children. And like I said, it wasn't any immediate thing. Like at that point, my timeline was like 10 years. So I came off and then had to find an alternative for birth control, right? So I searched the internet. I literally Googled a natural birth control, and I stumbled upon a blog post about fertility awareness. And it said, yes, you can avoid pregnancy naturally without the pill. You pay attention to your cervical mucus. It looks like creamy white hand lotion or raw stretchy egg whites. And then you take your temperature, and then when you can get pregnant and when you can't. I'm like, mind blown. I can avoid pregnancy without taking this pill. Like I thought I was doomed because like condoms were just like not like they're not a thing. And so I just thought, okay, we just like we won't have, it just won't happen anymore. And so that's how I got like into fertility awareness. And while I'm still like super passionate about educating women on like how does hormonal birth control even work, and then what are some alternatives to hormonal birth control, what I have been focusing on in the last couple years is really helping women get pregnant, because that was also like one of my struggles. The first happened right away, so naturally I assumed the second one would happen right away too. Even though I was charting my cycles, I was looking at my charts and they looked like crap, but I was like ingrained with, you can get pregnant any day of your cycle. Like pregnancy will just happen. Like, it just because it happens like all the time. And only having known and worked with a few women who had issues trying to conceive was like, oh, that doesn't apply to me. Like once we start trying, we will get pregnant, of course, even though my cycles were crap. So that's when I had our like my secondary infertility struggle, and that's kind of in conjunction with like working with women, trying to help them who were trying to get pregnant and helping them achieve that. That's kind of shifted my my focus to where I'm at right now. So yeah.
So you mentioned part of your story. You just said my cycles look like crap. So what does that actually mean? Maybe to help other women out there understand when their, cycle is maybe in alignment and in sync and in balance versus not.
Yes. Okay. So thank you for pointing that out. Basically, so with charting your menstrual cycle, like there are different levels to paying attention to your cycle. So if you write down the first day of your period every cycle, like on your calendar, on a piece of, like on a paper planner, on like your Google Calendar, whatever, like that is some form of awareness, and that is like some form of tracking, like you're tracking your period. But the level of cycle charting that I teach goes way deeper. We look at how many days of cervical mucus do you have? Cervical mucus can look, like I alluded to earlier, like a creamy white hand lotion, like kind of a sticky toothpaste type stuff. And I'm making like little stretching motions with my fingers, obviously. And like the liquid gold of your cycle when you're trying to conceive is the egg white cervical mucus. That's it's very lubricative, slippery, stretchy, and it kind of looks like raw egg whites because it like has that stretchy quality to it. And then we look at, so what type of cervical mucus do you see? How often do you see it? Do you have any dry days? What we call dry days is like where you don't see any cervical mucus in your cycle, because there should be a natural progression from your period to dry days where you don't see mucus to days when you do see mucus. And then the clear, stretchy egg white mucus typically leads to ovulation. Then after ovulation, your cervical mucus should dry up. And then does that match up with what we're seeing as far as your temperature? So your temperatures from the first day of your period, which is cycle day 1, up until ovulation will be in a range of lower temperatures. And I'm talking like around the 97.4 to 97.9 or so range. And then after ovulation, your temperature rises, and it'll be in a higher range. So it'll be higher than your pre-ovulatory temperatures. And so like that should all like line up. So like your peak day, the day that you see the peak quality cervical mucus, the clear, stretchy, should line up with when your temperature goes up for the remainder of your cycle. When I say my cycles look like crap, I'm saying I had gummy, very unhealthy looking mucus. So kind of like when I say gummy, it's like when you get a new bank card in the mail, like you peel it off and like that rubberiness that sticks on the back of the card, like that's like, but like a lot of it, was just like really like not healthy. And I saw this like all the time. I didn't have any dry days. I am fairly certain that I was ovulating because I have like some secondary symptoms associated with it. I have some ovulation pain that, alternates from the sides. And just other secondary symptoms can include like breast tenderness or mood changes or, just like this feeling. So while I do like, like the first line is like the cervical mucus and the temperature, I do honor like when a client comes to me, like I feel like I ovulated. I feel like this shift happening in me, like as we shift from like our inner summer to the inner fall, like heading into winter. So like I do acknowledge that too, and that's definitely what happened to me. But then my post-ovulatory phase was like very, very short. So ideally, your pre-ovulatory phase is somewhere between like 10 and 23 days, and then ovulation should happen around that time. And then after ovulation, you should have a minimum of 12 to 14 post-ovulatory days. And I just wasn't having that. I had like maybe 5 or maybe 8 or like a temperature shift that was almost indistinguishable because it was like so minimal. So that's what I'm referring to when I say my cycles look like crap. So looking at them as a trained practitioner, I knew there was no chance I was going to get pregnant, but still with what society has ingrained in us, oh, you just get pregnant all the time, and any time that you want to, and when you don't want to, that's kind of what my mind was telling me.
That's so interesting. Okay, cool. So what is your approach then to helping women sort of, restore their cycles?
Yes, I love that. I love that question. So number one really is learning how to chart your menstrual cycle. So like the detailed way that I was describing, like, the cervical mucus and the not having cervical mucus. So that is really the first step in identifying like what's going on, because two women can struggle with not getting pregnant and their cycle charts look completely different. And so rather than just like shooting in the dark, oh, you need to take XYZ supplements and eat XYZ foods and do XYZ tests, it's okay, what does your cycle actually look like? And then making changes based on that. Some things that I have found to be very useful over the years is, so I always start with like diet and lifestyle. Like I never get tired of harping on the importance of like eating good food. And when I mean eating good food, it's basically everything that you've been taught is bad for you. So eating the eggs, eating the saturated fat, eating the animal products, eating the animal fats, because those are what build your hormones. If you don't have those saturated fatty acids, you don't have a way to make those hormones, because your like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, they are steroid hormones, so they need saturated fats in order to be built. And the second thing is like on that is like the exercise. If you run like 6 days a week, maybe consider dialing that down a little bit, because your body has to have a level of like a comfort level. You can't be like running away from the tiger. Like that's the analogy I always use. Like your body doesn't know if you're running away from the tiger, and you're under stress that way, or you're just like running because you like to run. And then I do always recommend some supplements, and that depends on like where the person's at, what they're struggling with, if they're dealing with like PMS or like painful periods, or if they're like deficient in certain nutrients. So some that I typically most often recommend are vitamin D, iodine, and magnesium, just because so many of us are deficient in that. But like, what that looks like, what the dosage looks like, what you're comfortable with, that is always up to the person.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you said that about the saturated fat. Unfortunately, we went through probably at least a period of 20 years, I would guess, of demonization. And we're finally starting to come out of that, but there's still a lot of that within Western medicine. And so I'm sure you get a lot of women that come to you like completely confused and frustrated. They've probably been told one thing by their, OB, and when they show up to you, you're, telling them something a little different. But if what you do works, then that's I think it speaks volumes, right?
Oh my goodness. And to that, I want to say like the chart speaks for itself. So if and I've worked with a lot of vegetarian and vegan clients as well, who basically when they came to me, they had already like made that shift in their mind that they were starting to incorporate meat, and they themselves have noticed like how their cycles change. And so that's all, like if you're as healthy and perfect as like you say you are, like your chart would actually also be like near perfect. So, and like I noticed that like with my own cycles too, like nobody's like, okay, so nobody's perfect, absolutely nobody.
Right, we're humans living in the Western world, so there's
that's
that.
Right. Yes. I love to bake. I have a huge sweet tooth, like that's my downfall. And so whenever I eat too much and like too many of the sweet stuff, I can tell in my cycle, like I have a shorter post-ovulatory phase, or I get like I never get headaches, and then like I'll get a headache like randomly. or like, and it's like different for everybody, or like, like your if you have period cramps, like, you might find that sweet spot where you get away with X amount cups of coffee or X amount brownie or something like that.
Yeah.
So to still be able to enjoy what you enjoy about life, but balancing that with, having a healthy cycle.
So I'm sort of a diabetes nerd, and one of the things I'm passionate about is helping people reverse their type 2 diabetes and or prevent, if they have prediabetes, prevent it from escalating. So I'm glad you brought that up in terms of what you've noticed for yourself with sugar and your cycle. Let's talk about that relationship between not only our cycle, but just hormone balance in general between, carbs and sugar. What can you say about that?
Yes. Okay. So first of all, I want to do a shout out to Lily Nichols. Lily Nichols do you know of her?
Mm-mm.
She's a registered nutritionist and certified diabetes educator.
Mhm.
And she, like, her whole thing is like real food. Like, one of her books is like Real Food for Pregnancy. So she
Okay.
shares studies on her Instagram account, and like on like in her book on like blood sugar levels and the impact on fertility. It's like, so I haven't looked at the study, so I can't summarize it that great, but essentially the higher your fasting glucose is and the worse your body metabolizes glucose, the higher the rates of infertility. So the lower your blood sugar is, the easier it is for you to get pregnant. So that's always like a wow, mind blown. But then as far as
Mhm.
like the work that I do, where I see it all the time, is, for instance, PCOS, so polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is like, should be renamed something to the extent of, what are they saying? Is it metabolic syndrome? I forget what it's most likely. So it should be renamed. But anyways,
Mhm.
in PCOS, so women with PCOS struggle often to get pregnant because they have long irregular cycles, and it essentially comes down to insulin management. So I feel like I'm kind of like on that spectrum as well. Like, if I eat like too much sugar, my cycles will get out of hand. And like I noticed, like, I don't have a meter to check with, but like I get
Mhm.
like the symptoms of like having high blood sugar when I eat too much sugar. And so just that in and of itself, managing that. And yeah, so for essentially, like, if you know you have or suspect you might have PCOS, keeping a balanced blood sugar is so essential. You can basically manage your PCOS with diet alone. Like, not in all cases, and you might have some other issues going along with that. But what you were saying about like the pre-diabetes and
Mhm.
diabetes management, that is essentially what PCOS is about, is managing blood sugar. And then again, even if you don't have PCOS, having a stable blood sugar is still beneficial to like your overall hormones. You might find that you have less PMS if you reduce your sugar intake, if you have a stable blood sugar. You might find that you have a longer post-ovulatory phase, which, when you're trying to conceive, that is a really crucial phase of your cycle, because that's when implantation happens. And if you don't have enough progesterone, then the fertilized egg might not have enough time to implant and send the signals to the body, hey, I'm pregnant, like, let's keep this going. So yeah, there's like a whole like rat's tail of issues associated with that.
Yeah, so I just wanna say too that it's all of this is connected, and, within the functional medicine field, we look at the whole body, it's all the systems together and
Mhm.
how they work together. And so, whether it's, PCOS or prediabetes or diabetes, or if you're struggling with your weight, all of this is connected in terms of hormone balance and how your body functions on a daily basis, even with making neurotransmitters, which equates to how you feel throughout the day. So it's really important for us to to create a balance within our lives and within our body. And, it's not about living from a place of deprivation. Like you said, you love to bake, but you're able to recognize how that impacts not only your cycle, but so many other things downstream. And so I would just encourage any women out there that think that, oh, like I don't need to worry about, my blood sugar, or I don't need to worry about, my weight if I'm trying to get pregnant. And it's not that I want you to worry about anything in any way, but it's just something to be mindful of, because our fat cells actually are, how do you say, they're like hormogenic. That's not really a word, but like they will mimic other hormones. And so they will throw your body off, because it's not the actual action of the hormones that are present. It's the mimicking through fat cells that confuses the body. So that's just sort of another layer of why creating this balance is so important, so that everything is signaling and firing properly. So when it is time and you want to get pregnant, you don't have to, hopefully you won't have to, worry so much and like do so much digging and figuring out. I think that's a big thing with women in general, is so we sort of tell ourselves, well, I don't want this now, so it's not such a big deal. I can deal with it later. I can worry about it later. But then when later comes, then it can become stressful, and it can be hard on the female, but also the relationship dynamic. So, yeah, I don't know. That's
Yeah, and like if I can just like add one more thing
for
to
sure.
that.
Yeah.
A lot of women are being put on the pill or other hormonal contraceptives to quote unquote fix those issues, with their PCOS, with their painful periods, with their migraines, with anything that's cycle related or unrelated. If you're a woman and you have an issue, you're being put on the pill.
Yeah.
And especially if it is, cycle related, like the pain, if it's endometriosis or PCOS or like anything that's where it's like an irregular cycle, when you come off the pill, like that's not fixed. Like the pill didn't actually fix anything. The pill probably made things even worse, because you were for X amount of years, whether it's 2 years or 10 years or 20 years that you were on this medication, and it's suppressed your body's, like your body trying to tell you something's wrong. You need to look here. You need to pay attention. And so it's potentially worse. And then you like, if you are on hormonal contraceptives for a long time, and you are in your like late 30s, early 40s, and then you're like, you expect to get pregnant right away, and now it's taking you so long, and that definitely does cause a lot of stress. And like I'm just about to turn 30, and like my clock's like ticking, like, oh my goodness, if I want another child, like I better hurry, so I can only imagine, like, if this was like 10 years from now, that it would be definitely like time's running out. Yeah.
Yeah, and that stress just actually is, self-defeating in the process in and of itself. So I think it's not, I think it's definitely worth mentioning that, and we talked a little bit when I was on your show, that birth control is hormone replacement. We just need to call it what it is. I mean, we kind of think of hormone replacement as something that women get put on when they're going through menopause. But really, all birth control that is hormonal of any kind is hormone replacement. And so it has a huge effect on our body, on our brain, on our gut. Again, it's all connected. None of this is happening in a vacuum. And so, it's just, I think Western medicine has done such a disservice to females in terms of being in touch with our body, of understanding it. I mean, none of us are taught about our cycles in school. And so, like, unless we dig into it ourselves, like, who is teaching our young women and even, full grown adult women about our cycles? Like, not that many people. So,
yes, that's right.
I just want to be like, WTF, really? Like, we're the reason that there is a world population. I think, this maybe should be taken with a little bit more gravity, and and given, the due diligence and due time that is deserved.
I couldn't resonate more with this. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, so what are some of the tips or things that you would suggest that women or even couples implement that's easy that they can do right away if they're trying to get pregnant?
Yes. And I think I mentioned some of these things earlier too. And also thank you for bringing in the guys in this, because they are not innocent. It's like pretty much a 50-50 shot. So like 40 to 60% of infertility cases are male factor. And it just like women bear this burden and because like we are the ones who are like visibly like we carry the baby, we give birth, we breastfeed, and but yeah, so the men give 50% of the genetic material, so they are just as important. So I think it comes down to like the obvious, but sometimes I feel like we need to hear it like over and over and over again. Like at least I'm that way before it like sinks in. So avoiding like all the things we know aren't health foods, right? So like the cigarettes, tobacco products, reducing alcohol, or like other drugs if you use them, and then replacing that with very nutrient dense foods. One of my go-tos is liver and organ meats, which are so nutrient dense. They contain a lot of vitamin D, vitamin A, like in the case of iron. So like, a lot of women are iron deficient. So that's a really good like superfood. Like if we're talking about like fertility superfoods, like, and we want to like go to like all these like exotic like berries and things like that, eat some liver. Like go to your butcher, pick up some liver, and eat it in any way you can. Put it in meatloaf and like hide it in it if you don't like the taste of it. And that goes for him and her.
I'm going to interrupt you too and just add
Yes.
on that B vitamins, super high in B vitamins. And if you are a hunter or your partner hunts, then make sure they're bringing you back the liver of their harvest. That's a actually really healthy and clean way to get liver, hunt to eat. So live off the land. And anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely love that you brought that up, especially because like those animals aren't like laden, like they just eat the grass and like the stuff that like that's on the forest floor, and they're not injected with hormones. And so yes, like all over, like yes, great. I was actually super mad one time. It's been a couple years ago, but yeah, my husband shot a deer, and I was like, well, where's my bones? Where's the liver? Like,
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What do I have with this lean muscle meat? Go away.
Yes. Both my husband and I are hunters, and we always keep as much of the animal as we can legally, but also, depending on where we are in the country for transport. But yeah, you want to keep a certain amount of bones to make bone broth. Osso buco, amazing and so good. And especially when it's coming from, like you said, an animal that hasn't been Americanized by industrial food. So yes, it's really important. And or maybe like neither you or your partner hunt, but maybe you have friends. Ask them to bring you the liver, because like you said, a lot of people, some people like it, but a lot of people don't. And so if they don't like it, they won't keep it. But maybe if they know that they can give it to someone, then they'll start keeping more of those organ meats. So my husband loves the heart. And so the heart is super rich and dense in iron, probably more so than the liver even, maybe. But anyway, we digress.
Yes, as we do so often. But like as far as like other, so those were like some nutrient tips, and definitely like zinc for the guys. Zinc is very highly concentrated in sperm, so they need sperm to men need zinc to produce sperm. So like shellfish, oysters, and or a zinc supplement if he doesn't want to eat the shellfish. But then as far as like other pieces, like definitely like the cycle charting, like, getting started with just like, even if you don't know anything about it, you can grab like an app, or which I'm saying apps. I don't promote a lot of apps. I promote one app. Or like grab a piece of paper and just mark like the start of your cycle, paying attention to like what you're noticing about your cycle, taking your temperature. It's not that hard to take your temperature in the morning. It takes 10 minutes. So yeah, those would be like my practical tips. Eat liver, avoid anti-nutrients like the alcohol and caffeine and whatnot, and start charting your cycles.
Yeah, I would also say too, in terms of the temperature thing, if you're exhibiting or suffering any other symptoms and you think your thyroid might be a little out of whack, taking your temperature every day can actually provide you with a lot of good data to also take to your practitioner if you're investigating that as well. So the body temp can actually give you a lot of more information than you would think. It's such a simple piece of data and so accessible, but I think we ignore it.
Yes, thanks for bringing that up. And there's been like several clients who we've like done some digging. Okay, are you just like under eating, or like, is that why your metabolism is low, under eating, over exercising? Or like, do you have like a thyroid, like even like a subclinical, hypothyroid, but even full on like, yes, you need medication for your thyroid. So yes, that's super important. And definitely like I look at that too. So like if women use paper charts, like the paper charts that like we have cut off at 97.0. So like that's the lowest the paper chart goes. And so like when I see a chart that has like just like dots like underneath that line, I'm like, okay, that's clearly a sign we need to do something. Yeah. Or like if they're using like the charting app, then I just like on my computer I draw like a visual, like this is what we want your temperatures to be above.
Yeah. I think we give so much time and effort to probably exercise. Yeah, but I think sometimes we overdo it. We don't realize it, especially, a lot of it probably comes down to weight management or, how we want to look in those jeans or that dress, which, we all want to look good and feel good. I'm not discounting that, but I think sometimes we can exercise ourselves to a detriment. I know I've been guilty of that, not to the point of, losing cycle, but, to the point of not realizing that the way I was exercising was probably actually contributing to my adrenal fatigue and to my hormone imbalance and all those sorts of things. So I think it's important that we as women also think about, like, yes, it's important to move and to have exercise in our life, but if our body is not happy with what we're doing, how do we need to tweak it? Maybe instead of doing HIIT training, we start doing some hiking, or, instead of, like you said, like running 6 miles a day, maybe we back off the mileage, or, switch it up. Maybe we throw in some yoga because, like yoga, just because it's not running doesn't mean, like it's not, it can be really hard. And, but again, like it can be like really strengthening to the pelvic floor. And, that's a whole area of the body that doesn't get enough attention, especially, if you're wanting to get pregnant, you need a strong pelvic floor to have a healthy pregnancy and birth and like post-birth period.
Postpartum recovery.
Yeah, postpartum that's super, super important and definitely not talked about enough. And, just because there's a surgery out there to fix something doesn't mean it's the best way.
Yeah.
So.
And so I'm going to tie this back into charting your cycles for the millionth time. When you do like when you have like a baseline chart, like this is what your chart normally looks like. And then like if you haven't been like super active and then you start like an exercise routine, you will inevitably see changes. Like if you don't do it quote unquote right. The other thing, if you have this baseline chart and you do back off the mileage, or you do switch out like 2 days of running for 2 days of yoga and things like that, like you will see like an improvement. And it's like I notice it with my, like if you know something or see it like in a client, like that, knowing something is one thing, seeing it in another person is like another thing. And then like noticing it about yourself is like, whoa, I thought this only happened to XYZ people, you know? Because probably 6 or 9 months ago, I did like start up like an exercise, like a weight and like, you know, I don't know if it was like HIIT, but just at home, you know, with like my own weights and things like that. But it was kicking my booty, and I went from, and I'm still like postpartum at that point. I think I was still breastfeeding too, and I went from having like an already not ideal cycle. I think I had like a 10-day or so luteal phase, and then for like 3 months after when I started this exercise routine, it was very immediate. I went to like 6, 7, 8 days of a luteal, like a post-ovulatory phase, and then I backed off the exercise because I'm like, I can't be having this, like that's nuts. And I went back to just walking as my movement, and lo and behold, my cycles bounced back to like a 9, 10, which again is less than ideal. But again, like I'm still sleep deprived. My kids don't sleep through the night, you know, blah, blah. So yeah, like just seeing that change. And again, like it happened like the first month. So it can happen quite rapidly, like those changes, like improvements, or the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Getting worse.
So is there a typical like recovery phase postpartum of when your cycle sort of reequilibrates itself, or is that different for everyone? I'm sure it's different for everyone, but is there a typical?
There is like a general guideline. So there are like 2 phases to like charting your cycles postpartum. The first like time is from the day you give birth until your first ovulation. So like your listeners may know that you can that you ovulate before getting your period, and so you don't have to have like a period to be like, oh yeah, now I need to pay attention, I can get pregnant again. You can get pregnant like postpartum, like without having a period in between. And that this first phase can vary, and it largely depends on if you are and how much you are breastfeeding, and how, like, okay, well, many factors, I guess, like your nutrient repletion status, and like how well you're rested if you do sleep through the night, because that, you know, like not sleeping through the night, it throws your hormones off totally. And then if you're caring for a crying infant at night that needs to breastfeed every hour, that can also like prolong that. So if you're not breastfeeding, then your cycles can come back very early, and I'm talking like 3 weeks to like 3 months. I mean, it's like really, really early if you're not breastfeeding. And if you are breastfeeding, it can be like up to a year. But when we cross like the 1.5 year mark and you still haven't gotten your ovulation or period back, then that's where we're looking at, okay, like postpartum hypothyroid issues are super common. You just like created an entire human being and breastfed for X amount of months. Like, where are your nutrients like coming? Like, how are you repleting you? And getting rest and, you know, me time, and we don't have to get into that.
Yeah.
And then in the second phase, once you do have that first period postpartum, your cycles resume, like get back to your normal fairly quickly. So you, like after this, like for instance, like I had a 10-month and a 7-month like first postpartum period, and then my cycles went from like 35 days, 32 days, 30 days, like into like a, you know, normal range.
Okay.
But you were going to say something.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, I think that this like leads even more to how important sleep is, and, you know, how important sleep is to our hormone balance. And so, again, if you're trying to get pregnant, sleep, I feel like, should be one of those foundational things that you start making a priority. And then, like you said, you know, like where are your nutrients coming from, whether you're pre or, you know, carrying a baby, growing a little tiny human inside of you, or your post, you know, where's your food coming from? Where are those nutrients? And because remember, especially too, if you're breastfeeding, you're making food for now, the tiny human that you grew inside of you for 9 months. Now you're still feeding with something that's coming from your body. So it's important that we keep ourselves a priority even through the journey of motherhood. And I know that that can be very challenging, but I think hopefully we're starting to see a little bit of a cultural shift. But I
Mhm.
think it's definitely worth mentioning still that, we can't raise healthy kids if we ourselves are not healthy.
Yes, yeah, yeah. And like the nutrition piece, like it is essentially the same for preparing for pregnancy, pre-pregnancy, like during pregnancy and post-pregnancy. Post-pregnancy might even be more because like you said, you're feeding that human, like you need extra calories and extra nutrients. But then
And
also
fats,
for
good fat.
and good, like good fat, like not the like olive oil is great too, but saturated fats.
Yeah, yeah. Coconut oil, ghee, the good stuff.
Yeah. But like for many women, being postpartum means being pre-pregnancy because many families, like many women want to have like more children, and so
Mhm.
when you add that on, if you're having 3 kids in a matter of 3 years, you can only imagine how depleted your nutrient stores are. And so just like being really really intentional of incorporating the bone broth and the liver and the organ meats, just and make your kids eat them too because kids love it.
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
my
yeah.
2-year-old and 5-year-old, they ask for liver pate regularly.
Oh, I bless them.
Because I mean that's what I like, that was like their first food, like literally was like egg yolk and liver pate. So,
Nice. That's good. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I know. So yeah, and just before we, tie everything up and finish up here, I do want to like reiterate, and this is also just as important for all the men out there. If there's any men still listening to this episode at this point, thank you for bearing with us through this episode that was very female focused. But yes, so like you said earlier, up to 40 to 60% of fertility challenges come from the male side of the partnership. And, that is a result of the westernization of our world, unfortunately. And so it's really important to do regular detoxes, get that toxic burden out of your body, have regular sweats, eat clean, but eat very nutrient dense. Make sure that you're getting, again, the good fats, the bone broth, the zinc, the minerals, iodine, vitamin D, magnesium, all of those things, because that's going to help the two people that are going to make the baby to be in the best possible place and to bring, the best possible components together to make, a happy and healthy child, hopefully. So, yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much for like summarizing that and summing that up.
So, what's next? How would you like to leave us today?
Yeah, so really like getting pregnant naturally is possible for you. It's on like just getting pregnant naturally is possible. It does sometimes, it does take a little bit of work. But yeah, is just there's nothing more beautiful to me than supporting a couple through their fertility journey, and then having like the after miscarriages, or like failed IVF treatments and things like that. Like to have, like I said, that positive pregnancy test, but then
Mhm.
having that baby in your arms. So yeah.
So, where can people find you?
Thanks. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Amy Jovita Murray. My website is amyjovitamurray.com. And on there, I have a couple of freebies that you can download. One is to get started charting, and the other one is for conceiving naturally. And so I also have a free 30-minute fertility breakthrough session if you have like a topic that is like you want to know about, like what can I do, or I have this one thing that I have an issue with. I'm happy to chat with you as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all your expertise and your time today. We really appreciate it. And definitely, I encourage any of you out there, if you're struggling to get pregnant, definitely reach out, because there are solutions and there is definitely a hope. So don't suffer in silence, and don't allow yourself to be discouraged along the way. So again, thank you, Amy, and we will catch everyone on the next episode.
Thank you so much, Lara, for this opportunity.